We just heard The Landing, a song from Ije Awele, the new album from award-winning Nigerian-born composer and saxophonist Perpetual Atife. Known professionally as Perpy, she is the recipient of the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta Award and the Mayor's New Canadian Artist Award. Perpy now calls Calgary home, and she is the Immigrant Council for Arts Innovation's Artist of the Month for June. Each month, ICAI spotlights a new Canadian who is making a name for themselves in Alberta's arts and culture community and helps connect them to arts facilitators and professionals in the province. I'd like to welcome Perpy to CKUA this afternoon to tell us a little bit about her journey. Hello, Perpy.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me here today.
I'm so glad you could swing by the studio today. So you're a saxophonist. When did you first hear the saxophone and what intrigued you about it?
Honestly, I do not remember when I first heard the saxophone, but I remember the first day I held a saxophone.
Right.
It wasn't like, but as a young kid, growing up with my dad, sometimes we spent time with my dad, and most of the time we spent with my mom. But on weekends, my dad would have the stereo play a popular, legendary Nigerian artist who's late now. His name is Fela Kuti.
Of course. Yeah.
And he would, just play that every Saturday and make us dance to the music. And that's where I believe I first heard the saxophone. But even at that age, I probably didn't know what it was. I was just enjoying the music, the rhythm and the groove of Fela's music. But I remember the first day I held a saxophone. I was in my 20s, and I had an opportunity to join a music class, and a friend of mine offered me his saxophone. And that's the first day I played it. And since then, it was my only instrument.
Right.
And I grew in love with it. So it wasn't something that the first day I loved it so much, but I grew into it and I found it as a very, very beautiful and expressive instrument and companion. So yeah.
What sets it apart? I mean, you just mentioned that there is a lot of groove and the sound of it is so interesting. But what else sets it apart?
I guess the fact that I don't have to say a word to communicate. Yeah, I used to be very into me, into myself, and very quiet as a young person. So the saxophone was that, outlet where I still didn't need to say anything, but I could express so much. And I found that it began to open opportunities to me, and I began to sound louder and louder and more beautiful and more acceptable. And it kind of gave me a voice when I probably didn't even need to speak, or I was too afraid or too into me to speak. So the saxophone became that outlet for me. So, yeah.
So you moved to Canada in 2019. What was your experience trying to find your footing in the Canadian or Calgary music scene?
That is a very interesting question. That was very difficult, actually, because I moved in 2019 as an immigrant with kids and family, young family. The very first thing everyone tells you is you need to find that survival job, and you have to find that job, and that takes a lot from you. And so I did that for quite a while. And for me, it felt like music was over. Like it was never going to happen here because, first of all, I couldn't find the scene. Then I couldn't even find myself being accepted here. So for about a year or two, I was totally cut off from music and just never saw opportunities. Sometimes I try to connect and come downtown and see their gigs happening, but who is organizing? How do you even find it? How do you even, be part of the community or part of the scene? So it was really, really tough. It took an award to give me that exposure.
Yeah.
It was the Mayor's New Canadian Artist Award that gave me an opportunity to be the resident artist at the Central Library downtown for about 3 months. And then I started to meet more and more people. And then a residency at the Bounce Center gave me another opportunity to connect to more musicians. That took 2 years.
Right.
Took 2 years, but it was a very difficult journey for me, yeah.
How do you feel about being ICAI's Artist of the Month? How has that organization helped you advance your artistic career?
In a lot of ways. My very first major concert where I had to curate myself was the one last year when I had EJ Live at the Studio Bell. And that was the first major thing, and I was working with an orchestra. This is something, as an art administrator, I've done this a lot, but as an artist, to have to write music and get arrangements for an orchestra and perform with the orchestra. This was my very first time. And so ICAI gave me a mentor. And that mentor was someone I was meeting every week. And we were talking through all of that process, even till the very last minute, till the concert. And that mentorship was so significant for me. It's such that you know that I'm not alone. I'm new in the city, but there's someone I can always, rant to every time and cry to, or, just complain about my frustrations to. And Megan Goguen was always listening, and that was the mentor that ICAI sponsored for me for the entire year. And that made that project really easy to carry as an artist. So, yeah.
What advice do you have for other newcomers who want to pursue music or arts in Alberta?
Find your people. It's so important. The journey of an artist sometimes is so lonely. And I mean, like, such an award of being an artist. The Artist for the Month gives me an opportunity to be here. But as an independent artist, you could write to people a million times and never hear back. But being part of communities, or being part of networks, being part of trainings, or, just trying to immerse yourself in the new city you're living in is one of the most important things. It doesn't matter how quiet or shy you are, you just need that community. You need to find it. Do the best you can and find it. And ICAI is one of the resources that I always recommend, because they provide mentorship, training, PD sessions, and expose you, and even opportunities to exhibit or share your work, just like I'm here today. So that would be my advice. Find the community.
That's a wonderful answer. Before we go, I want to ask you quickly about this album. Where did you record it?
So this album is a mix of so many places, but mostly Calgary. I recorded at the OCL studio in Chestermere, and I had Spencer Sheen as, I hope I'm saying that name correct, but I know him as Spencer, as a mixing and recording engineer. But I also had a few tracks in there where I collaborated with some of my Nigerian friends and artists from across. One of them is in New York and one is in Nigeria. But everything else I did here with 5 other amazing Calgary artists, Sheldon Zenboa on piano, Robin Harris on drums, Louis Stover on percussions, Neil McVie on the guitar, and Brendan Rothwell on bass. And they've been with me on this entire journey, from the concert here to the concert at the King Eddie last year, or 2 years ago, and the Ironwood. It's been a journey, and they've been here with me. So.
Great. Well, we're going to hear another track from that album in just a moment. Thank you so much, Purpi, for talking to us today about your artistic journey.
It's my pleasure.
That was Calgary musician Purpi. She is the Immigrant Council for Arts Innovation's Artist of the Month for June. Purpi is performing at the Bella Concert Hall on September 23rd. To get tickets, go to ejbypurpi.com. That's IJE by Purpi.com. To find out more about ICAI, go to icaionline.org.